Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday. Welcome to Ready, Set, Thrive. I am your host, Stacy Soleil. I'm the Marketing and Technology Director with West, a Williston Financial Group company. Today, I am welcoming to Ready, Set, Thrive, Michael Neville. And Michael Neville and I are somewhat colleagues out in this space, and this guy is a genius. And so I wanted to bring some of his marketing genius to all of you to share some strategies and just to kind of have a roundtable with one another. So let me give you a little bit of background about this gentleman here. So since 1992, Mr. Neville has covered all aspects of real estate in the industry, everything from title, escrow, lending, real estate. And over the years, he's been an avid Mike Ferry referral partner. And he's also been an affiliate director with the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors. And your current business is works a lot on the recruiting and retention side of the business. So you're a guy who knows a lot about keeping business, generating business, and the things that we need to do to stay on top of business. So that's where we're going to kind of crack the nut today, is kind of uncover some of these strategies. So welcome, Michael. It's great to have you here today.
Stacy, thank you for the very kind introduction. Very, very nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're in Q4, and notoriously, it's this important time / crazy time, because we run into the holidays, and it's so easy with the holiday madness. Now, granted, COVID kind of shifts it even more so, but the things that we do during the fourth quarter can really make or break how we kick off that next brand new year. So I kind of wanted to start there. From your perspective, let's talk a little bit about, like, what 3 things do you think that everybody should be thinking about or paying attention to when it comes to this fourth quarter?
Great question, Stacy, and perfect timing. And my answer is a little different, I think, this year than typically due to COVID and due to the pandemic. It's certainly a different business environment out there. One thing, real estate is super strong and going gangbusters right now for some and not for others. So when I think about that and I look for kind of a majority or a mass answer to that, you nailed it. And in order to start 2021 strong, we really need to finish Q4 strong. So I almost say, finish strong, start stronger. And so what do I do with that? First of all, I want to create a business plan. I want to create a business plan that's a roadmap for my success for the entire next year, right? I want to break it down into segments. I want to break it down month by month. So I want to figure out not just something that I put down and put into my desk and say, I'm going to get here, I want to make this kind of money, I want to have this kind of vacation, I want to do this for my family, but something that's really achievable. And to be achievable in my mind, you need to review it regularly. Yeah. So it's really a working document in my mind. So right. I want to work on a business plan, that'll push me a little bit, but that's realistic. And I want to also look at where I was this year business-wise. Was I up? Was I down? Was I sideways? Was I completely knocked off balance? Was I caught off guard? I think we all were come February, March.
For sure.
Where was I, and what adjustments do I need to make? So I guess number 1 would be really finish strong. Pay attention to the things that got you to where you wanted to go in your year, in your career. Really pay attention to those. Finish strong to start stronger. Work on the business plan, put it down. I was very fortunate to go spend some time in Maui recently. And when I'm there, it's a very magical, peaceful, thoughtful place for me. And I spend a lot of time working on my business plan there. It's a really nice place to do it. Now, a lot of people aren't as fortunate as I am, obviously, to be able to do that. But find a quiet place, find a special place, a meditative type place. Work on that business plan. The third thing to do, and this really ties in if you're looking for 3 ideas, really ties into the business plan, and it's just a SWOT analysis. And what SWOT stands for would be strength. Look at what your strengths are. What do you really do well? Second would be, what are your weaknesses? Right? Let's be honest. And it's hard. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths. But sometimes what we can do is increase our strengths to overcome our weaknesses. Sometimes we need to work on both our strengths and our weaknesses to elevate and to get us where we want to go.
We were just talking about this behind the scenes, weren't we?
Right.
Talking about, identifying what are your weak spots and how to work on those on a daily basis to overcome. So good point.
Mm-hmm. And daily basis, I love that you said that, because we need to work on both on a daily and consistent basis for sure.
And is that the O, ongoing?
The third in SWOT is opportunity. What do you see as your big opportunities ahead this year? If you're in the real estate industry, maybe it's hire an assistant. Maybe it's build your team. Maybe it's getting better with social media, with marketing, using video. Maybe you see some of your biggest competitors dropping the ball in places that you can really pick it up and run for the end zone. So what's the opportunity? And then the fourth one is, what are your threats? Right? It's kind of the old slogan, know your enemy. But real estate business, a lot of businesses are undergoing a lot of changes right now. And almost, if I could use the word, under attack. And that's maybe not the right word, but brokerages are under attack. Independent owners are under attack. Business owners are under attack. So what are your threats? So
Right.
In your business planning, find out what your SWOT is. And I like to do the SWOT at least twice a year. If I do it, say, in November, December, and then I do it in May or June, I keep my eye on the ball a little bit better than if I only do it once a year.
Well, sure. And there's always things that come into play that are going to create a little bit of an alteration from what you might have began with. For instance, a pandemic can just show up out of left field, right? But just even not understanding, we can always look at the economy from a projection standpoint, which we do, obviously, but projections are just that. They're projections. And so the reality that comes with it, it makes sense to constantly revisit to make sure that your projections and your realities are in a measurable alignment so that you can achieve your success, right? So I really like that SWOT analysis. That's very clever. I was thinking, as you were talking about the T for threat, I wonder how many people find that their T is not so much anyone else but themselves.
Great
because
point.
we get in our own way sometimes, right?
Great point.
Yeah,
The worst thing that usually happens out there happens right in here.
for sure.
Right in between my ears. 100%. You're so
Yeah.
right.
Because that's literally, and that maybe that's a little bit of projection there, but noticing that, what is the thing that gets in my way the most? What's the thing that stands in the way of me overcoming a hurdle and achieving success? Oftentimes, me, right?
Right.
or what it is I think that I can't overcome. So I like that. That's very interesting. So out of curiosity, when you have a client or you sit down and work with, from a consulting standpoint, and you're working to help somebody generate their business plan and utilize these different strategies, I like that you said a working document. When I think of working document, I think of the likes of using a Google document that's easy to share and editable. But what other types of things do you recommend? Is it take that business plan and also have it in front of you on a whiteboard so that you can have that day-to-day visibility? Is it, I'd love to talk about some other little strategies you use to really stay on task when it comes to these deliverables.
Great question. Great analogy. And by the way, I love what you said, and it's the old Henry Ford adage, I think. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe I can do it. I'm gonna give it a heck of a try. So when it comes to sharing a document, a working document, I'm a big believer in accountability. Not only myself, but I want others around me to hold me accountable. So the biggest thing that I can do with my business plan, once I create it, is share it with my wife.
And I just got to meet her. She's fantastic, by the way.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah.
She was wonderful. I did well. But if I make that commitment to her, And I also make it to other people that are important in my life. I work for myself. I run my own company, so I don't have a boss. But if I would do a business plan and share it with my boss, my coworker, my investors, my wife, those other people, guess what? I'm going to do a heck of a lot better job of staying on track and on plan than if I just did it, put it in my desk, looked at it in 6 months. Yeah, I'm close. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm there. So
I love that.
Share that. Create accountability.
That's fantastic. And I think for a lot of real estate professionals, most of the clients that I work with are really good about going through the process of creating a business plan. Most of people are with a brokerage that have great leadership and they use this time to create business plans. So I know we all know you got to have a business plan, right? That being said, I don't know that there is necessarily a strong level of people that are leveling it up in the way that you're suggesting, where you truly are sharing it beyond just that one accountability partner. It's easy to get an accountability partner that kind of attaboys you or yeses you, like, yeah, good job, way to go. Having a little bit of that challenge system is good. I think it's hard, but it's good, right?
Well, if you want to really achieve your goals, create the accountability along the way. If you're in the real estate industry, which is what we're talking about, I highly recommend, getting a coach, whether it's a Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, whoever it is in that space that resonates with you, that you really enjoy learning from, and sharing that with them. Having somebody that holds you accountable week in and week out, they're not doing it for them. They're doing it so you can achieve your goals. Right? And how wonderful is that? There's a lot of pain points in a coaching call and the sessions of consulting and that kind of stuff. But really, if both people have the end in mind, those pain points get a lot more rounded and it's a lot easier to get there.
Yeah, that's so true. Transparency is one of those things that, we've talked a lot about this in the industry in depth, that transparency is so important to, garner trust and build loyalty, earn repeat business. But that being said, transparency is something that we also have to turn inward and utilize that for our own practices and how we keep our own business afloat. So that's a great idea. So I love that. So as a marketing and branding professional yourself, what would you say are some of the most important elements of marketing and branding from the real estate industry side of things that people should be really focusing on and integrating into that business plan as they move forward?
Well, I appreciate the compliment. And I would say that I'm probably a little bit more sales oriented than marketing oriented. And let me kind of say my definition of the two.
The marriage of the two. There's such a fine line because obviously from a marketing, advertising, sales, customer service side of things, I mean, there is such an interconnection. So I know you get it. So I'd love to see your kind of where you see that crisscross come into play.
100%. And they work so synergistically now more than ever. Sure. But in my mind, in my industry, and I may be a little old school, it's about developing relationships, personal relationships, meeting one-on-one, talking to people, asking the questions, finding out, diving in what's important to them, where their pain points are, how can I offer solutions? So building that relationship one-on-one. The marketing side of it is the support. It's the materials that you can give them. It's the branding that you can help them with. It's the ways that you can help them get their company, their name, their vision, their everything out to the world. Yeah. So sales and marketing, and we've talked about this 100%, work very synergistically, hand in hand together. I'm more on the sales side than the marketing side. Right. So if I look at somebody like my wife, she would be very much more on the marketing side, would prefer to be behind the scenes, where I'm picking up the phone, used to go out to lunch, used to go out to dinner, used to do that kind of stuff. That'll be back. I'm more that.
Now it's the virtual versions of those things, right?
It is. It's Zoom land.
So actually, let's touch on that just a tiny bit, because as somebody who is more in, like you said, in that traditional realm of face to face, building those relationships and earning those opportunities or new prospects, having that shift from the traditional landscape that we speak of, like lunches and having coffee, all that type of stuff, and doing Zoom. So, what are some strategies that you're finding are working? Because we all know that people do get Zoom burnout. People do get, they don't want to get on the phone necessarily, are afraid to open the door, afraid to go places. So I'd love to kind of talk about some ideas there.
There is Zoom burnout. I sometimes feel like when I want to start a meeting, I say, "Hi, my name's Michael, and I'm a Zoomaholic."
Yeah, for sure.
And I know you feel the same.
I do.
I never used Zoom until March of this year, right? And now it's part of our vocabulary. And I think a lot of people in the business industry felt the same way. I also think that there's a lot of it missing in the social connection. Zoom is great. It's better if you're sitting across from each other having a cup of coffee. It's just, I think we are all, and even millennials and people below that live on their telephones and stare head down at their phone all day long, need the social interaction. So I really think that there's a lot of opportunity if you approach it the right way to build personal relationships, even in this time and place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have seen some creative solutions come about, like where, in fact, just last week, or maybe it was earlier in the week, my days are kind of running together. I had a client who was doing a fundraiser, and they did this really fun Zoom bingo fundraiser where everybody was playing bingo, and there was links to do a silent auction. It was fun. It was interactive. And I had to say, I thought, this is pretty clever. And I like that, there are businesses that have, figured out how to take some of the fun, personable sides of existence that we're missing, and find ways to integrate that into our online transactions. So that was kind of cool. So I'm interested to see, for the next year, what kind of new ways of being personal online we're going to find. How are we going to evolve this way? I think we will. We have to. We have no other choice, right?
Right.
So I'm kind of excited to see how that will come together. I would like it better if I could be like the innovator that comes up with the thing that changes the landscape, but I'll keep trying.
Back to our earlier conversation. Can't you be?
Right? I guess I will. You heard it here.
Who knows? Right?
Yeah, just got to keep digging, right? So I like, one of the titles that we put on this is focusing on solutions versus fixating on problems. That being said, in order to focus on solutions, it means you have to identify where the problems exist. It doesn't mean if you get fixated on them, but you have to identify them. So I'd actually like to kind of uncover a little there as well. So what do you see? Because I know I can see a lot of things that tend to be frequent missteps, if you will. So from your side, what are some things that you see out there that are kind of common mistakes as far as, when you're creating the opportunity to win business? What are some things you see happening that maybe might be missing the boat just a little bit?
What the number one thing that I see people missing the boat is just not going for it. Just not, hey, I've never been on a Zoom, but you know what, Stacy, here's a link. Come join me for 20 minutes because I've never done this before. Just
like paralysis by analysis, kind of.
100%.
Yeah.
Not picking up the phone. Stacy, we haven't seen each other in a couple months, and I'm starting to feel a little guilty that I haven't reached out, and I put that off, and longer and longer. It gets harder to do. Just pick up the phone.
Right.
Hey, Stacy, I owe you an apology. For what? I haven't called you in 3 months, and I've been thinking about you. What are you talking about, an apology, right? I mean, you can just imagine the conversation.
Right.
So I think a lot of it is just being afraid of putting things into motion. Just try something different.
Yeah.
I never worked on Zoom come March. Now it's commonplace, right? The first couple of Zoom calls, I was like, oh my gosh, what do you do? What do you do? You figure it out. There's a ton of tools out there to communicate with people. Text is wonderful. Email, wonderful.
Live streams.
Live stream, video. Oh my gosh. technology and video and ways people communicate electronically now has just sped up immensely. It's amazing to see.
It is. And it's funny because, we typically say, certain generations tend to live on their technology more so than others. But, technically, I am a generation that you would say does not live in that space, but I've lived in that space more than I have not. So I feel a bit of a kinship with my millennial Z and beyond folk, because I've been so obsessed and in love with technology and the social landscapes that I kind of stepped outside of my traditional, bucket and jumped in. And I think that things like pandemics that change and shift the way that we do business will make it so that a lot of people do kind of fit into different categories than they once did before, which I think is pretty cool.
So let me ask you a quick question. What was the interest or the driving force for you to get into the technology side of things as deep as you're in?
It's funny because I was a stay-at-home mom, had young kids, and I'm a very social creature, very social. I love being around folks, and because you're at home with kids and you got nap times and all those kind of things, I used the internet during nap times to connect with other people, play games, talk, and before long, just diving into, oh, what's this MySpace thing? Yeah, I'm not old, but just different things, right? Different things that just created interest or helped you to better understand people. And I just got fascinated by everything. So every time something new came about, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to see it. I wanted to understand it. And so that's, it kind of defined my career over time, quite honestly. So my passion for it is still here, and I'm still digging and still playing.
Good for you.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. And it's scary for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have been extremely successful in their business, and they didn't use any of these tools. And so to overnight be thrown into the lion's den and say, hey, it's either get in or die, right? That's, for a lack of a better way to say this, that sucks for a lot of people, And so
there's that technical term again.
It's a very technical term, but it's, from a relatable standpoint, it's been tough for a lot of people. And so trying to have a bit of understanding of where people are coming from and meet people where they are to help them rise to the next level, I think that's been huge. Right. And so when you think about, yourself, if you're an entrepreneur watching this, a real estate professional, or whatever industry that you're in, and you've gone through a pivot, thinking about who it is that you're relating to. What have they been up against? What has this been like for them? And sometimes that right there, just starting from that point, can make a huge difference, right? So anyway, I love that. So I guess obviously the quick fix for something like that would be what? Just do it?
If you could say that, more like you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
And like you're a vegetarian.
What if you're a vegetarian? Come back to me on the next live stream on that one, would you? Yeah. And what I mean by that is if you've never really dipped your toe into social media and you go, oh my gosh, there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. There's all these platforms.
Yeah.
You don't need to learn them all at one time. And you don't need to become an expert by any stretch of the imagination. Just dip your toe in, have some fun, commit to learning. Hey, you know what? I've never been on Instagram. You know what? Sign up, get an account. You don't have to post anything. Your friends are going to populate there pretty quickly anyways. Take a look, find them, and start following them. Now, word of warning, don't spend half your day perusing Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, because that's probably one of the biggest time wasters that we face in today's digital age. But just learn a program at a time and commit to it and say, you know what, by the end of the month, I'm going to be familiar with Facebook. By the end of the month, I'm going to learn how to use Google Docs to share a document with whoever I'm working with business-wise. Eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's a big ocean out there, and you're not going to sail it all in a week. So
well, and I would even say I would even get more granular than that, because to say by the end of the month I'm going to know Facebook is kind of like saying, I'm going to read an entire encyclopedia, because there's always changes and there's always, so if you were to take one part, like, okay, by the end of the month, I'm going to have run an ad, or by the end of the month, I've created a custom list, or, understanding certain specific elements that are going to drive your business forward and getting super comfortable. I think over time, if there's all these different moving parts and you get really comfortable with little said parts, before you know it, you actually are an expert without even trying.
You're right.
Little by little. Yeah.
You're right. And, one of the things that I've always found very helpful is if I'm diving in to learn a new program, a tool, whatever it is, I want to look at how will this benefit me, but more importantly, how will this benefit a potential client, a potential friend, a potential relationship?
For sure.
So if I can find out where the need is, where the pain point is, maybe if you want to call it that, and I can solve that problem, it makes it more fun. And I feel like I'm actually doing something, moving forward instead of just kind of plinking around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does make a huge difference to think about, who am I talking to? Mm-hmm. What do they care about? Where are they coming from? And then start the process there. I think all too often, especially in the sales and marketing side of things, it's so easy to have your agenda, right? You have this little, you've made, where I worked really hard, I created this business plan and I have to do these things. And I know I have to do X, Y, and Z. And so you start by kind of blah, here's all the things.
Yeah.
And if nobody really cares, they're not going to listen, right? So paying attention to where they're at first, and then make your plan fit into their interest. It's an art form, I think.
Yeah.
Not easy. Definitely not easy.
What I heard you say a little bit is selling isn't telling.
Yeah.
And too many of us in the sales industry, and I got this term from Matthew Ferry, I'll give him credit. Too many of us in the sales industry want to verbally vomit all over our potential.
I almost said that just a second ago, and I thought, I already said crappy. So
there you go. Okay, we're covering all those.
Just all the slang right here today.
Wonderful bases. Yeah, but it's interesting, and this reminds me, when I start working with a client and they're trying to set a meeting or they're going to a meeting, there's 4 questions that I learned from my father, who was a wonderful mentor. And whenever I pick up the phone, wherever I'm going into a meeting, whenever I came to this live stream, there's 4 questions that I want to be able to answer myself. Do you mind if I go through them real quick?
I would love that. I love numbers. Let's do this.
So the first one is, who am I meeting with?
Okay.
I want to know as much about the prospect, the friend, the person, the interviewee, whatever, that I can learn.
Right.
More information I know about them, the more questions I can ask, the easier the conversation goes.
That's correct.
It's more natural. So first one is, who am I meeting with? Mm-hmm. Second one is, what's my goal?
Okay.
What do I want to get out of this meeting, appointment, phone call, conversation? Right. What do I want to get out of it? Now, right. The third one, in my mind, is by far the most important.
Number 3.
What's in it for them?
Yes.
What is in it for Stacy to sit down with Michael for 20 minutes and do a live stream? If I can answer that, it's a heck of a lot more fun conversation. And I'll tell you what, it gets me usually a lot closer to my goal.
Right.
And the fourth one is, before I pick up the phone, before I walk into an office, before I tune into a live stream, am I ready? It's the checkup from the neck up, as I like to say.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm ready, if I'm prepared, if I've done my homework, if I've answered the first 3 questions, more times than not, I'm going to have a great meeting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love taking those 4 questions that you suggested and apply those from a maybe even a challenge or a resolution of sorts for your new year as you move forward and as you're trying to generate new opportunities, as you're looking to strengthen your existing relationships, maintaining those relationships to re-earn business? These are all great questions to ask, to implement, and to revisit, like you said, several times during the year to make sure that you stay on task. So this is fantastic. In fact, and when you said your fourth one, are you ready? I thought to myself, well, yeah, it's ready, set, thrive. Yeah.
Perfect. You set the hook for me there, didn't you?
You totally set me up. I love that. So, well, I really appreciate it. I know that you have a very short window of time, and I know you have to get to meet with a client. So I want to make sure I'm respecting your time and that we wrap up here at our 30-minute mark where we're at. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael Neville, for joining us on Ready, Set, Thrive. I'd like to, if you don't mind, just kind of share below your website if anybody wants to learn more about Michael, his experience, and connect with this amazing man. I love when I get the opportunity to do business with you, and I really appreciate that you took the time to come and share here on our live stream. And if you're watching a rebroadcast, thank you for taking the time to watch these videos. If you have questions, you can still leave them below in the comment section, even when we're not live, because the beauty of Facebook is that it just continues to live on. So I'm always constantly checking. So please leave any questions, feedback, anything you have. And we'll see you back here next week. And thank you again, Michael, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Stacy, thank you so much for your time and for having me on. Very much a pleasure.
Okay, my pleasure as well. Okay, have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you so much.